Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the InFOCUS video podcast from the Radio and Television Business Report. It is presented by .fm, streaming social podcast or broadcast. Get a .fm domain name by heading over to get.fm today. And today we are welcoming Frank Jachetta, the Chief Executive Officer of MultiDyne Video and Fiber Optic Systems, to the conversation. Frank joins us on the podcast to share more about a recent acquisition that marks a significant advancement for a company that for 50 years has offered broadcasters and video production professionals products focused on signal conversion and fiber optic-based transport systems. That would be the acquisition by MultiDyne of Mark Roberts Motion Control, a key robotic company. Thank you so much for being here, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure. My pleasure. Very exciting.
Well, Frank, Mark Roberts Motion Control is known for products focused on the design and manufacture of motion control camera rigs and heads. And these are perhaps the last integral pieces of hardware of need for a broadcast TV station. So I'm wondering what led MultiDyne to move ahead with a purchase of MRMC, and if there was one thing in particular or a collection of things that offer strategic benefits to the broadcast TV station today.
Well, yeah, we had been looking at this space because we have a significant attach rate to it. In other words, cameras are invariably on the end of robots and fiber is invariably on the end of cameras. So we were looking at this space, and it's a very interesting story. We were about to acquire a company in Poland called Slide Camera, and unfortunately someone beat us to it, and that someone was MRMC. So now in a roundabout way, we've actually ended up acquiring them, and they're only about 15 minutes from our office in Poland. So that's just an interesting anecdote. You mentioned the brand Mark Roberts and Motion Control is the original name. They've evolved to MRMC, as you stated. And what we've done is, because we want to preserve that name because it's known, is we are now MultiDyne Robotics and Motion Control, keeping the MRMC. So we're excited about that. And then, creating a deeper union between. But yeah. So we're excited. Yeah.
MRMC's catalog spans some of the most recognizable hardware in the field. The Bolt high-speed Cinebot range, billed as the fastest camera robots in the world, includes the compact Bolt Junior Plus, the standard Bolt, the long-reach Bolt X, and the flagship arm. Is capable of moving at up to 39 feet per second on track. There's also the Academy Award-winning Milo and its successor Super Milo, which are still the reference rigs for macro, tabletop, CGI, and high-speed live-action work, with the Super Milo adding brushless motors and a 77-pound payload and a 20 maximum height. I mean, that's all stuff that sounds impressive, but to perhaps the layman in the C-suite that gets the bill projections and goes, wait, what are we being asked to purchase here? What stands out from these particular offerings that the audience may not be so familiar with that makes it so dynamic and so important for the broadcast TV station that really wants to be future-proof?
Well, that's a good question. That's a lot there to contain. First of all, Academy Award. I like to bring that up. It'll pair nicely with our 2 Emmy Awards. I'm hoping at some point we need a Grammy and a Tony. I don't know if they give those for tech, but we'll look into that. But what's fascinating is you mentioned the Milo, and there's a Super Milo, and that is the Academy Award winner. And then there's a whole host, and that's a 2-ton robot. It fills a truck. Yet is portable, and then the similar technology comes all the way down to a desktop for commercial. Now, the bigger robots, their origin and main purpose is in cinema, and that's a big part of MRMC. However, broadcast is a similar push, and a lot of that precision and high speed that we have acquired through the necessity in cinema, we're bringing to broadcast in a more traditional pedestal type robot that we've been attached to in our history. Mm-hmm. So it again depends on the different applications.
Frank, virtual production pipelines, LED volume work, precise, repeatable camera movement, high-end commercial and episodic production are just some of the reasons Cine owner, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Cine owner, Nino Leitner believes motion control is, quote, not a fading category. How do you react to this comment? Because again, it's one of the last pieces of integral hardware a broadcast TV station may need today, but perhaps doesn't think about.
Yeah, it's another great question because, with the advent of AI, where it's going to take everyone's job and leave us relegated to the corner, it's even more complementary. So you mentioned the LED volume. So, that's that sort of Mendelian virtual backdrop, the Unreal Engine type things where you essentially have a video wall instead of a green screen or a live set. And the need for motion control is even greater because you need to synchronize with the motion of that wall and also need to synchronize, frame synchronize so that everything appears proper. So I think those virtual elements, virtual sets, virtual backgrounds will facilitate further robot work. Now, again, that's a little bit more in the cinema, but, of course, this applies to broadcast as well because although MultiDyne traditionally does work in cinema, like the digital cinema area, live cinema, we're broadcast guys. And, that's where we grew up. So, we intend to continue the MRMC broadcast area, again, with those traditional pedestals. We want to introduce some of our tech into it, through SMPTE hybrid cable and power, perhaps slip ring for infinite rotation. Those type of technologies we're using, we want to meld together for a better broadcast environment.
All right. Well, Frank, we're going to take a quick pause at this point, put you back in the green room, and we will have now a word from the sponsor of the RBR and TVBR InFOCUS video podcast. Stand by.
Whether you're launching the next big podcast, building a vibrant social community, or broadcasting your brand to the world, .fm is your signal to stand out. Don't just streamline your success with .fm. Claim yours today at www.get.fm.
And we again thank .fm for being the presenter of the RBR and TVBR InFOCUS video podcast, which you can find on YouTube and at our homepage, rbr.com. Just click on the podcast button and you'll be able to watch all of our great video podcasts, including this one here with MultiDyne CEO Frank Jachetta. Again, remind us what the updated name for MultiDyne is.
Or MultiDyne Robotics and Motion Control.
Well, thank you again, and thanks for being here. We thought we would take this time to look back at the 2026 NAB show to see how those in attendance responded to MultiDyne's first entry into its Crescendo series of audio and signal processing tools. And at first, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the response to the CIC AM12G audio monitor. What can you share?
Yeah, so that is an evolution from our Census Digital acquisition, which was an audio monitor company. And this is our latest long-awaited 12G update, 1RU, very high-quality audio. And again, I'm glad you bring that up because, all we're talking about lately is robots. I mean, you have a model on your desk of a robot, perhaps not of an audio monitor. But, again, this is where we come from, is that broadcast area. Unfortunately, audio monitors don't really dovetail with robots the way some of our other products are. And I just want to take the opportunity to mention the upcoming Silverback, which has had a significant attach rate to other robotics and certainly will with ours, as well as the VB series, which we're always adding cards to. And these are for signal transport on the, of the signals from the cameras to and from.
The CIC AM12G marries a broadcast quality feature set with a compact and modernized design to benefit demanding live productions across broadcast, sports, and pro AV environments. It was introduced at the 2025 IBC show. And with a few months before that event for 2026, we're wondering if there are new products or enhancements on the way for this particular conference and expo, which is seen by many as a dress rehearsal for the 2027 NAB show.
Yeah. Well, obviously a big push will be the acquisition of MRMC at IBC. But like I touched on your earlier question was that integration. So we have the new Silverback coming out will be shown at IBC, as well as some of these other iterations. And as I touched on earlier, also, stay tuned for integration of the technologies, where we will build in some of these transport elements into the robotics, particularly in the broadcast area. For those traditional pedestals, we want to take some of our camera power systems, integrate them into the whole unit, so that not just the camera is powered by our tech, but the whole robotic system. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Before we concluded the podcast, we wanted to again salute MultiDyne on its 50 years of serving the industry, which we've talked about earlier this year in some of our printed publications. While maintaining its longtime role in fiber transport, the company is investing in such adjacent areas as IP-based workflows, video compression, cloud integration, software-driven solutions. With broadcast media in such a rapid state of evolution, where do you see the business in the coming years as it pertains to providing television stations with the tools they need to remain future-proof?
Yeah, that's a good question. Also, aside from robotics and talking more toward our 50-year history, we move video. So we're always looking toward the next evolution of that. So 2110, we already have products for. We will be integrating that into other product lines. And we are also looking heavily into video compression and transport as it pertains to transport, but also to cloud production and REMI and such things. So that, again, is, comes from our core of 50 years. And then now with the addition of the robotics in the studio. So I look forward to the next 50 years if I make it that far.
Well, I want to thank you, Frank, for taking some time out to talk a little bit about what's going on at MultiDyne. Anything that we did not touch on that you think our audience would need to know about or would want to know about?
Well, there's just a couple highlights that I was excited to learn. That you mentioned the Milo robot was used in Game of Thrones, Saving Private Ryan, again in those virtual sets, as you mentioned. And I even learned that SpaceX and Boeing were using this technology for some docking on the International Space Station. That's one I need to research further myself, but that's really cool. So I wanted to share.
Well, thank you. And where are you located? I love your background. Hopefully it's not a virtual background. That's an actual office.
This is my office in Kings Park. Yes.
In Kings Park is in Nassau County, Suffolk County?
In Suffolk County. It's in Suffolk
County, way out there. It's like exit 544 on the LIE. So if you happen to be out there on the way to Montauk this summer, hey, think of MultiDyne, right?
We're on the way.
Look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on this InFOCUS podcast, all right?
Thank you. My pleasure as well.
That's Frank Jachetta at MultiDyne. It's always great to speak with people like that in person on these InFOCUS video podcasts. And there's always an opportunity for us to consider you. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast, send me an email. It's very, very simple. Contact me via email at the email address listed below. If you are listening to this, don't stop and take your hands off the wheel. Adam@rbr.com. It's as simple as that. And with that, we want to thank you for watching or listening to this radio and television business report InFOCUS podcast. It was sponsored by .fm, streaming social podcast or broadcast. Get a .fm domain name by heading over to get.fm today. And remember, the InFOCUS podcast lives on the RBR and TVBR YouTube channel. So be sure to connect and subscribe to this video podcast. And be sure to tell a friend about it as well. I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, which is the global headquarters of Streamline Publishing, home of the Radio and Television Business Report, Radio Inc. magazine, and for our arts friends, the Plain Air magazine and the Fine Art Connoisseur magazine as well. On behalf of the team here at RBR and TVBR, make this your peaceful day. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.